Now, campaigns theoretically can have three effects. They can reinforce, they can activate, or they can convert. Now, conversion is unlikely. Somebody who was already predisposed to vote one way or the other is unlikely to be convinced to switch their vote by campaigning. The real purpose of campaigning is to reinforce the people who are already agreeing with you and just ensuring that they go out and vote, because campaigns are as much about making sure your people vote as they are convincing someone to vote for you in the first place. Reinforcement can also lead people to get involved in the campaign, to become a volunteer, and of course to contribute money potentially. Activation is where you take somebody who maybe was uninterested in the political process or was unlikely to vote, and you get them excited about the process, and they turn out and they vote for you. And campaigns today tend to focus more on this idea of exciting the base, getting the voters to come out and vote, than they do on actually trying to convince somebody that you're right. Selective perception is the idea that we only tend to acknowledge things that we agree with. So we only tend to look at, when evidence is presented to us, we have the tendency to ignore evidence that contradicts what we already believe. And so this is why two people can sit there and watch the exact same thing happen and walk away with the exact opposite idea of what happened, or why you watch two different news channels cover a story in completely opposite ways, and viewers of both of those news stations will think it makes sense. Party identification is waning. More and more people identify themselves as independents, but it still does have an effect. There's still roughly a third of the country that identifies themselves as Democrats. Slightly smaller number, but close to a third that identifies as Republicans, and then of course another third that calls themselves independent. Incumbents have a huge advantage. Incumbents are very, very, very likely to win. Upwards of 90% is it likely that the incumbent will win the election. Incumbent, by the way, means the person who already has the job. So, are nominations and campaigns too democratic? Well, they're open to almost anyone, but they do consume a lot of time and money. They promote individualism in American politics. Our ability to choose through primaries our candidates allows somebody who maybe doesn't have party approval, who maybe doesn't toe the party line, to grab that nomination. In reality, in 2008, for example, if the people didn't get to pick, the Democrats almost certainly would have chosen Hillary Clinton. As Barack Obama was kind of a challenger to the power structure of the Democratic Party in some sense. The same is true, ironically, for Hillary's husband, Bill Clinton, when he first got the nomination for the Democrats in '92. Do big campaigns lead to an increased scope of government? Well, candidates do have to make an awful lot of promises to raise that money, and then when they get elected, a lot of those people expect those promises to be fulfilled, and typically those promises are for the government to do something. And so some people argue that this leads to a growth of government. And it's very difficult. People generally don't contribute money to your campaign on the idea that you're going to take away a program. They tend to want one created or beefed up. Anyway, so that's what I have to say about nominations and the primary process.